will be Elevate, so they get their first selection and their first ban. Keep in mind, their new jungler, not new to this week. He's been here for about a week or two. Cherio, still relatively new, I'd say overall. Do you think they're going to, well, I'll take that away. I think that they're going to specialize and look for Cherio's picks early on.
I think so too. They didn't play any Guardian or Naja the last time Cherio made his debut back in here for Elevate, but this time around, I wouldn't be surprised if they start mixing things up, considering the fact that Elevate, they are a team that are still kind of experimenting here. They have a lot of potential. They just got to execute.
I like how Obey Alliance, their drafting, or their banning strategy rather, has specifically looked at the support player Dardes, keeping him out of control by way of being over-aggressive. Fafnir and Ares, two of his go-to selections, taken away. It's a different strategy, but I really like it.
But this leaves open a lot of other support options for Obey Alliance in the form of the Terra. Could be potentially in that solo lane, you never know. But with someone Kong locked in, less than likely that we're going to see a Milzy on the Monkey, while we're going to see Maniac playing that instead, just to be a little more aggressive.
Elevate, however, they do go ahead and prioritize Cherio's selection. That's the Nemesis right there, likely to be in the jungle. And then Scylla and Carninos for the mid lane, Ulissa, and the long lane Hunter, Jermaine. So Obey, they've got to select one more character here, where I'd like to see them go mid lane.
It's very possible that they would look for Pretty Prime's pick, but Naja locked in this early for Captain Twig. This is a god that he also likes to heavily prioritize for that early game aggression. I was surprised because I thought that maybe they would take over Ataraxia's pick here before the secondary ban phase. He likes to Jing Wei a lot, so I would assume that Elevate would ban it here.
Ataraxia can play kind of anything you give to him, so I'm not really too concerned there. Like I said, I wanted to see the mid lane. Elevate are going to focus on that position for the bans right now. Vulcan, and then maybe even a Nox ban. I'm very curious to see where they go to ban Scylla. It'll be the Ra. Scylla, I feel like Scylla does well against Ra. Why do you think they ban him?
I think the Ra ban was just to take away the option for the Wombo combo of the Naja, take it to the sky, and then the Ra ulti on top, and not wanting to deal with the sustain, because there's always enough mages to follow up off of Naja anyway. You have your Toth, you have your Poseidon, you have the Nox pick that you were talking about as well. Morrigan was also potential here if they really wanted to go for it, and they could even steal the Alma Monster for themselves.
Yeah, it's a big case. That's a big call right there, totally. Morgan or Nox is going to be my two guesses here for Obey Alliance, and it will be the Thoth, just the absolute fantastic confirm with that Naja ultimate. What goes up must come down, and while it's usually cited as a negative, it's also very much positive when Naja lands. The teammate mid knows as well. You can line that up and pretty much confirm the long-range Thoth ult.
That's true. That final judgment will just be so easily set up here for Pretty Prime. Captain Twig loves to play aggressive, so that's more than likely what we're going to see out of Obey Alliance here, especially with this Sun Wukong Naja combination against a Nike Nemesis. Nike is more one of these later stages gods that really benefit once you start stacking the passive, but up until that point, level 1 through 5, it's not the easiest time in the world for her.
Yeah, Elevator absolutely looking for the late game here, Anatoly. I think Jermaine's character kind of hits his stride a little bit early, maybe mid-game. But when you're looking at Nulissa, Cherio, No Numbers, they're definitely characters that need to sort of bake in the oven a little bit. Obey, on the other hand, you can see their strategy already looking towards their composition. Characters like Naja, Maniac on the Sun Wukong, these characters want to be early aggressive.
This is like an assault match. There's just 5 people down the mid lane. All members from both teams were grouped up in the beginning just to gain a little bit of positioning to allow this mid-jungle control. But despite all that shenanigans, everyone just resets. Dual lane goes for their own red while solo goes to the wave.
I love the play coming out from Elevate specifically, because they're the ones kind of stopping the Okie Dog play. What we've seen a number of times is the teleport holding solo laner starts in the mid lane sneakily, right? They hide around a rock and then they go for the kill, and whether or not that happens, they teleport over to the lane. So Elevate fan out and they spread out as a 5-man unit, the 2 players right in the mid lane, and then the other 2 sides of the map flank and just They make sure that nobody can surprise their mid lane, and then as soon as they have that info, they go back to the lane. That's a really creative strategy.
Well, speaking of creativity, Obey's dual lane between the Milzy and Ataraxia, they neglected the wave to be able to do the oracles. Both dual lanes went for their own red, own purple, but the only difference was Elevate's Bruise Brothers. They wanted to grab this wave. However, Obey don't lose too much gold here under their tier 1 tower. They lose all the melee minions, but they get the 6 archers, and as a result of grabbing the oracles, they're going to have that vision position around that gold fairy for 1 minute just to see where Cherio is going to be at.
And more of an illustrative point than actually saying they have the lead, Obey are up about 400 gold despite the fact that they gave up the wave overall. So, like I said, it's not about a lead, it's just more about, well, that really was efficient.
It was pretty efficient, and considering that Obey was doing a pretty good job in the mid control as well, that despite the poke that Pretty Prime received in the early stages, they were able to out-clear Cherio and Alyssa in that mid wave to be able to bounce into the jungle first.
Right, and you know, looking at that clear, you're going to expect that. Not necessarily because of the Scylla, but more because of the Captain Twig. Captain Twig on the Naja, he recently got a change that allowed him to clear even better, but even before that change was kind of okay. Stuck in a bad spot right here. Anatoly, he's going to just battle. Missed the ring. And that's a really big deal, but Elevate don't commit.
Now, that was a very important clear tactic here for Captain Twig. Pretty Prime is going to have to try to buy a little bit of time for his jungler to get in a safer spot, but Alyssa neglecting any sort of poke here.
Wow, Captain Twig getting out of that one. Meanwhile, dueling First Blood is strong. Dardas falls down to the hand of Emilzy. Right there, though, that play from Captain Twig, not the cleanest. Elevate let him get away with a lot of mistakes without a punish.
That's true. He went from behind them without having his ring bounces available. He missed it
Or
in
the sash.
that little jungle encounter. So Alyssa could have easily looked for some poke. She found the root, didn't want to invest into the crush because she wanted to use that for the wave specifically.
Emilzy coming through with the ultimate, looking for the dash, can't find the grab, but also will miss the stun. Captain Twig, solo side, picks up no numbers on his first rotation of the game. 2-zip. Obey starting off clean.
Naja using his ultimate to be able to find that kill, and that's the one issue with the Nike. She doesn't really before you max out that second ability, you don't have the HP 5 to be able to sustain in the laning phase as long as you would like to.
I mean, Nike doesn't really, you say before you max out the 2. I feel like when you're talking about Nike, she doesn't really do much before ... She really doesn't do anything until level, I mean, fill in the blank here, level 10?
Yeah, once you max out the Ren, but you're looking at the matchup here. Sun Wukong can disrupt the Nike in 2 different ways, whether it's knocking her up with the Ox, or if there are no minions around her, then guaranteeing stun on that Tiger form. So No Numbers is heavily invested towards the late game.
Yeah, just like the rest of Elevate's team as a whole. Cherio and Alyssa also on these late game characters, as we illustrated earlier. And Obey Alliance, they're playing exactly as their composition would lead you to believe. 1,500 plus in the lead early on, because, as I said, Maniac, you mentioned he's going to disrupt this lane early on. Naja, early aggressor. No surprise that we got the kill in the solo lane.
And there's no problem in terms of playing towards the late game. A lot of players get into this mindset like, oh, if I lose laning phase, I lose the game. But honestly, we've seen a lot of options in terms of Amaterasu making a huge impact in these games. Nike, as long as you get these 3 stacks, you're gonna allow your team to be in a very comfortable spot.
And that's one of the bigger differences as Captain Twig misses his sash between that ranked mentality that we constantly reference when we see newer players come into the league and we question their mental fortitude, right? Competitive is a completely different beast, Anatolian, and you just have to be able to sort of shake those early cobwebs where Elevate right now, down 2,000 at 5 minutes. If you're in a ranked game, you're probably angry right now.
Sure.
But knowing this is competitive, there's so many different variables, this is fine.
Everything could just be at a standstill. As long as Elevate have the necessary vision to spot out the aggression from Obey Alliance, they can make the necessary rotations. If they are behind levels, they could just look for opposite plays on the opposite side of the map. You ward around the right, you go for the left.
Nice collapse. Obey went for the left, or the mid lane chasing her into the left. Melissa gets out of there thanks to the beads, but Obey's certainly aware that that tool is on cooldown. Maniac now in trouble. One more does it. And Elevate answer back with a kill on the enemy solo lane.
That was such a clear bait from No Numbers. He used the Ren so far away from the wave that he was only going to hit Maniac and the melee minions in the process, and baiting out that Tiger stun without the escape and without any mana to go into that somersault cloud. It was such an easy gank opportunity for Cherio.
Maniac really going to take that opportunity any chance he gets by going for the Ren just on the melee minions. Maniac thinks that, yeah, I've scared him, I've pushed him out, I'm the early game aggressor, watch me go. Very, very intelligent rotation from Cherio and the guys on Elevate there to make that play on the solo lane.
And Nemesis is a great god to be ganking that solo lane with her Divine Judgment, stealing away a large portion of your health. You're gaining movement speed, you're stripping away protections. without the escape from the Eagle form, you're guaranteed dead.
There's a lot of characters that you sit there and go, look, man, I'm just not ganking solo lane.
Yeah.
You really expect me, a Bastet, to go and kill a farmed, I don't even care, Hercules, right? Like, that's not going to happen.
However, there is potential because the fact that the kitties can body block. So you
stop it.
You're waiting for that important dash, and then you drop the kitties and the scratchies.
My point is, and you know my point is
I know you're fine. She's more of a late game god that's waiting for her physical power to come online, whereas Nemesis doesn't need those items to be effective. The base stats of her kit in general is just strong enough. Similar style to Circuit.
I think you just wanted to say kitties and scratchies.
You got me, Tom.
I know you way too well, Tolly. Either way, Cherio on a fantastic selection, and that's why. So they prioritize the Nemesis selection so that Cherio does have that option. A lot of junglers, as we just hilariously illustrated, don't have that early game option to look for the solo lane. Left side, Oracles go down to Elevate after a brief little duel. 1800 in the lead still is Obey.
Neither team really electing to go for the Gold Fury quite yet. Still relatively early in the game, so I like the fact that obviously Elevate aren't committing to it, but committing into the mid lane is going to be Obey.
Yeah, Cherio down about half HP. He's safe under the tower. Nulissa gets it. She's a monster. Finds a kill on a Captain Twig. Looking for number 2. Will miss by a mile, but the damage is done already. Elevate tie the game 2-2, still trailing by a chunk of gold.
And at the tail end of that, you hear one of the laurels being popped by Nike. This means that they get that first stack. That's going to be that 250 minion death stack, which is going to give her team that 2% movement speed and 4% additional power to start things off. And once they get 10 kills on the board, you're going to increase both the power and the movement speed by 2.
And that's really the key there and you know, that Nike is probably the best example. Because normally we have to sort of show scaling and the way power items work and this, that, or a third. Elevator literally just waiting for the game to get later so they can get stronger.
Especially with Nalissa, if she connects on those Alma Monsters the first time around, and whether or not she connects on the second, the first one is good enough. Anything after that is just extra, because honestly, we all joke about zoning ults, but that in itself, everyone is just looking at Nalissa when she goes into that form.
And that's a really big point there, Anatoly, is the I love intangibles. I love stuff that doesn't show up on the scoreboard. As Jermaine takes the fight to Ataraxia. And you're 100% right. When you hear that, there's like a bell sound almost, the ding, and then I'm a monster, and you look at the Scylla, whatever the target call was for Obey is immediately changed. You get in the head of the shot caller, and you stop everybody from doing what they were doing previously, because if you get hit with a monster when you're not paying attention, you're getting yelled at.
That's true. Having to invest into some of these Aegis amulets here. Only one on the side of Pretty Prime and 2 Bracers of Undoing for both Emilzy and Captain Twig. I like the style because this item, what it provides for yourself, by activating it, you get that 3-second cooldown reduction, and any amount of damage you take in the last 3 seconds or so, it's like a little miniature Chronos ultimate where you're getting about 50% health and mana returned.
Yeah, it's 3 seconds and then 5 seconds the last that you get your health back on the on the upgrade. But yeah, the minus 3 seconds on the cooldown, I love it. A lot of outplay potential. I love it specifically on characters like the Naja, who, oh no, I'm in trouble, I can bracer and sash my way out, bracer and heal my way out, when you just need a couple of extra seconds to really get out of jail. On the Terra, on the support character, I am a little more torn. I kind of wish there was a more team-oriented selection there. Meditation has been hit, Shell has been hit, Frenzy has been hit, but these are all still options, and I'd like to see them on the support.
But the fact of the matter is that Emilzy, when he uses that Terrace Blessing, he gets the cooldown reduction, so he pops that ultimate, he uses his abilities, and by having that 20 to 40% CDR, depending what rank it is, it's going to be able to pop even more cooldowns off of it. So he's going to get a large amount of cooldowns during one encounter with Terra's Blessing.
Okay, sure. I'll give you that. We're using the bracer with the ultimate in mind is always rough. Captain Twig gets even rougher, missing the sash by maybe half an inch there.
He was just kind of trying to zone away, no numbers away from this blue buff.
He's looking for the kill. If Captain Twig connects there and gets the kill, he was just half an inch short.
Well, the thing was he used the ring bounce on the blue buff to kill the little blue ogres, and then because the fact that we saw Maniac go into no numbers, that's what procced him to reset the blue buff and try to go for the kill. not sure if that would have been a kill considering the item choices here. Mark of the Vanguard, Silver Breastplate. That's a decent amount of physical protections.
By himself, no, but with Maniac on the floor, oh well.
Possibly.
Oh well.
Bracer of Undoing for no numbers as well, so any sort of gank here from Naja, as soon as you come landing down, that's going to return a decent chunk as well.
Exactly. That's the other side of the Bracer of Undoing, the heal aspect of it, which is rather strong. It's you get half of the HP that you lost in the last 3 seconds gets smacked right on back with the use of that Bracer. I think this is going to be, with the change to Sunder, totally, I think this is going to be the new hotness. And listen, it's strong. Ooh, I don't know about that dive, but I really hope I don't. I like watching this item. I think there's a lot of outplay potential, and it's skillful rather than just Sunder.
I absolutely agree. It reminds me of the old school Hercules mitigate wounds where he would take a lot of damage.
Nalissa taking a lot of damage, forced into the Aegis. Maniac gonna help out with Rom. Finds it. There's the ultimate. Number 3 for Obey Alliance, as the Monkey Man is so deep. And that's his decoy. Up front is going to be a different story, however. Still, a 5-on-2. Cherio, you got to get out of there.
Cherio with no numbers and just no man's land. The Bruise Brothers were too far back, getting zoned away from that decoy. And Jermaine going to find 5 members of Obey Alliance surrounding him. Those are 2 dead Elevate members. And without too many healthy remaining members out of Elevate, Obey could look for this gold.
They absolutely could, and I think they will out of Tully. You can see Elevate going to the other side of the map looking for the Portal Demon, perhaps. I think that would be the nice call, but instead, too thin are the ranks. And so Elevate get the only objective here. 13 minutes on the clock. Pretty Prime slays the Gold Fury, and that puts Obey up about 5,000 gold. Elevate get to the Portal Demon late, like you said, Tully, but
Twiggy's going to look for it. The ring bounces is there, but I'm a monster being used just to confirm it. That one cooldown alone, though, could spell Obey's aggression, but no, everyone is on the left-hand side anyway.
Yeah, I like that play. I think that's the right call from the Elevate mid laner. Absolutely looking for just something. You can't get left behind. You got to find something. So, what do we call it? The crumbs after the stuff after the stuff?
Sure. Elevate responding in kind, getting at least 750 gold in their pocket, keeps the lead relatively tame. And by tame, this is still kind of a stretch because Obey have a 5,000 gold lead at this 14-minute mark. This is pretty substantial, not to mention the experience is right on the same pacing.
Yeah, and with the experience so high, that's really what Elevate have to be afraid about. And the fact that they're the late game team here and Obey are the ones that are accelerated. Elevate are going to reach their late game prowess after Obey are kind of a step ahead of them. So really Elevate need to look to pivot this game into their direction.
Oh wow, Cherio, nice stun from Pretty Prime and Milsey following up. Divine Judgment in return, but Milsey's going to proc that Terrace Blessing. Captain Twig connects on the stun.
Great catch. The shield is going to help him out a little bit. Maniac on the chase as well. However, Cherio can't get out of here, folks. Got a Geb shield. That will change things. Dardes from the left side saves his jungler. Excellent play by the French support. Cherio was toast without that.
Oh, Ataraxa, he hits 2, but Cherio uses that Retribution shield. Will survive for the time being. It was also a great ultimate from Jermaine, that Wild Hunt, just to turn everybody into that piggy form, keeping his teammate alive.
Well done by Elevate. Cherio, a little bit out of position, but really just obeyed good aggression. They saw an inch and took it a mile, and Cherio gets out of there thanks to some strong team help.
A lot of ultimates. A lot of ultimates were used from Obey trying to commit to that 4 specifically, but only 2 on the side of Elevate to be expended. So Elevate could look to put a little bit of pressure with that advantage.
Yeah, this is the time where Elevate should look for a fight. I mean, I say that cautiously because they're down by 4,000, but with the ultimate situation, this is where you want.
Whenever you're behind, you got to look for any little factor that is in your advantage. There's always a small window for a team that's behind to take advantage of. This is that opportunity for Elevate. We're looking at the difference of I'm a monster versus Final Judgment. If one of those cooldowns is not available, that team fight is heavily in the other's
collapse.
favor.
Elevate need to collapse right now. Jermaine should make the call to collapse on Ataraxia. Pretty Prime trying to play bouncer here, and he successfully does so. Dashes in the mid lane, catches Cherio sleeping. There's going to be no numbers coming up forward to protect everybody else. Well done by Elevate to prevent the onslaught, but can they cause problems themselves? Cherio says yes. Take it down, Maniac.
Maniac, nowhere to go. Captain Twig gonna stun out Jermaine, but the crush connects onto 3, Atarax into the sky, trying to find no numbers, connects on 2. Third one doesn't matter because everyone is zoned away. Oh, they are gonna grab this tier 1.
And that's the moment. Hesitation is devastation. You absolutely have to take a look at the situation where you're at and how everything is going to work off of the time and place that your team is in. Elevate had the situation. We talked about it. They had the opportunity. They waited 7 seconds. By the time that everybody collapsed onto Ataraxia, the ultimates were already back up for Obey Alliance, and the window was slammed shut. Everybody chasing Pretty Prime here, Totally. I don't think it's going to work.
No, not at all. Nice little dash backwards into the safety. That Terra's Blessing doing
double
work.
Stun.
The double stun. Nalissa is going to fall. Dardas could follow up here. Ataraxia trying to find it, but the Gev Shield will buy him some time. Great aggression from Elevate because their whole mindset was having no numbers, teleport into that mid-wave just to find the collapse. But that Terra's Blessing turned everything around, just giving more mobility, clear casting for Obey Alliance, allow them to tip the tides in their favor.
Man, I'm so upset almost about Elevate's lack of aggression there. If they make that play 5 to 7 seconds earlier, that team fight goes differently, the objective goes differently, and Elevate tie the game, potentially.
Cherio trying to make a play 1v2 against Pretty Prime and Captain Twig. Not the place you really want to be against this level 16 Nasha, 15 Toth. The level 14 Nemesis can't really find any sort of opportunities here.
Yeah, not at all, really. No numbers being collapsed on by 2. Make that 3 players as Captain Twig comes over to the right-hand side, finds the sash. The shield is just gone as quickly as it showed up, forcing out the ultimate from the Nike player. And Obey 3 members strong here on the right side looking for the tower, but here comes Nulissa. Root is good, Crush not so strong. Monkey able to dash away from that one. Now the Mage, beautiful ultimate, saving the life, but still not enough as Pretty Prime comes through in the clutch to take down Nulissa.
The timing of that ultimate from Nulissa was well timed because the fact that it negated the ultimate from Captain Twig. But despite all that, you still take damage from the initial hit when Nasha connects onto you. Despite not taking you into the sky, it gives you that one little hit anyway, and then that one little hit whenever you come landing down. And there was just too much damage dealt onto Nulissa. Without your mid-mage here, Elevate have to concede this Portal Demon and more than likely this Gold Fury.
Well, it was a great play. It was a great play by Obey's mid laner Pretty Prime there. So Captain Twig goes in with the sash. The answer back is the mid lane Nulissa's ultimate to make her CC immune. And then as soon as Nulissa goes into the ultimate, Pretty Prime just readies the cannon, waiting for her to stand still. Doesn't even wait for her to pull the trigger, just shoots her, making sure that she can't counterattack. Nulissa could have gotten 1 or 2 kills there had she found the mark, but too fast is Pretty Prime. Extremely well done by the mid laner for Obey Alliance. 8-3. Obey Alliance are leading this game rather strongly at 19.5. They're up 8,000 gold, and Elevate need to find a way back into this one.
They still have those late game victory conditions like we mentioned before, heavily relying the damage from Nulissa, the utility between the damage boost and the movement speed boost from No Numbers, Nike passive stacks, and Cherio will always make it much easier to take out these tanky targets between his passive and that ultimate, so Maniac has to watch out whenever he gets chain CC between the Cataclysm and the knockup, which is why he invested into the Stone of Gaia to make sure that when he does get Cataclysmed, he has enough time to get into that somersault cloud before the knockup.
That's another one of the many benefits of having Naja available. Flaming Spear, which is, I mean, depending on which option you're going for, you can either max Flaming Spear or the sash after your ring bounce. Flaming Spear lowers the cooldown, giving you more heals more often. Also, 55% attack speed. You're going to shred that Gold Fury. So Elevate, they don't even watch. They're not even there. Obey take the Gold Fury with just a Hunter and a Jungler. Interesting itemization choice coming out here from Captain Twig as well. He's got the Talaria boots.
And you're talking about interesting item choices. Not only does he have Talaria boots, but he's going for this defensive option, probably going to be that Spirit's Robe here, going for that Brawler's Beatstick just to negate some of the healing potentially out of Jermaine within his kit, not to mention no numbers with that HP 5. We're also looking at a crazy amount of attack speed coming out of Ataraxia here. He went for this Odysseus Bow Executioner combination, and it synergizes pretty well because the way Executioner works is you want to be able to build those 3 stacks to get the physical shred here, or physical protection shred.
Cherio doing some shredding himself, finding Captain Twig with the ultimate, but unable to really hard commit. And I think the reason we're seeing those 2 items, Talaria boots and Odysseus Bow, you know what the unique factor connecting those 2 items are? Well, okay. Odysseus Bow has 0 power. Talaria Boots has minimal power compared to the other options.
Sure.
My point is that Shifter Shield is a new item in the meta offering so much physical power that you can forgo some of the power in lieu of other stats because Shifter Shield is going to be so prevalent in your builds.
That's true, but in the mid lane, Obey, they're grouped up. They have this advantage of huge amount of gold, almost 10,000 specifically, and they're going to take it into full force here, trying to find that right angle here, even warding right underneath. Maniac is going to tank the tower while Ataraxia just absolutely demolishes
Elevate
it.
being a little obtuse here, just defending the tier 2 for no reason. Fall back on the Phoenix. Obey just topples it. Tier 2 goes down 1,500 in the pocket of the red team.
Maniac forced to use that ultimate just to survive a little bit longer. Twiggy taking a little bit of poke from that crush. Still a good amount of ultimates from Obey Alliance. That wombo combo between Twig and Pretty Prime still available. And if you're Elevate, that's one dangerous threat. Yeah,
the big deal for Elevate is that they still have Nulyssa's ultimate online. Oh, Jermaine. Pretty Prime finds him with the giggle. But Nulyssa's ultimate's still there. Cherio and Nulyssa can just obliterate one person very quickly.
And Cherio's ultimate coming back off of cooldown. Very short cooldown as you level this ability, going from 90 seconds base up to 70 once it does get maxed out. So despite Nemesis not always having to be from ahead, can still be that old bot.
Uh-oh, here comes trouble. This dash forward from Obey is problematic for Elevate. They don't want to fight in that corridor unless Nulyssa can land the pops like that. Beads as she goes through the wall. There's help from Captain Twig, bringing a player to the sky. He'll land down. Jermaine in trouble. Dashing away left side. Pretty Prime for the left. Watch out. Nulyssa is in trouble. There's the mage. She avoids it. Turns into the ultimate herself. Backside, trying to avoid it. But Pretty Prime finds her with the second shot of 3.
Trying to cancel Justice Sentinel into the mid lane. No numbers is going to be sentineling back to base here. 3 dead on the side of Elevate, and this late game potential from Obey Alliance is going to equal in towards the Fire Giant buff.
Yeah, Obey Alliance up by a slew right now. That team fight, I think, was Elevate's last shot to really come into it, and they had a kind of decent go for it.
It was a great play here from Nulyssa to start things off. She found a 3-man root, 4-man crush right between that speed and blew out of Obey Alliance. The problem was everyone else from Elevate didn't really want to follow up here, forcing even out some relics. That could have been I'm a monster, especially considering Pretty Prime wasn't in that encounter quite yet.
Yeah, that was oh man, that was rough. I said Elevate didn't want to fight in that corridor, but if Obey gets stuck and then Nulyssa lands on them, well then you take the opportunity that's given, even if it's not. That's the difference between theory and practice.
Sure.
No coach will ever tell you to fight on the enemy side of the Fire Giant jungle in that section between the speed buff and the other rock. But when you hit 4 players with a crush, you break the rules and you go for that fight.
That's just the starting key to victory there. Whenever you're the first one to strike, you can maybe fall back to reset and try to look for some more pokets. But considering that Emilzy is playing this Terra, he has some sustain options here. Not only does he have that Monolith or the Terra's Blessing, but sitting on that Sovereignty gives him enough HP 5 for him and his teammates. Not to mention Maniac has a crazy amount of regen with that Stone of Gaia.
On the other hand, Obey played it so differently that Elevate couldn't expect to see it. Gold Fury going down here to Obey, pushing them even further in the lead. What I mean to say is, when you get hit by a 4 or 3-man crush, you retreat. That's the quote-unquote right call, right? Obey just ran at you. And I think they honestly took Elevate by surprise there, and that's what won the team fight.
And despite having the Nike passive for that movement speed, it doesn't really matter when you're looking at a Milsey playing the Terra. For her ultimate, you're able to outrun that passive, especially considering there's only 2% from that passive currently, where only one Laurel for the Nike. But either way, though, the option here that Twig did to start things off for his team was he found Jermaine out of position. He found him in the ulti, and without a Hunter here for Elevate, the rest of the team fight was just destined to fail out of them.
That's a good play right there. Tier 2 going to be answered back by Nemesis over here. Cherio on the split push. I like that choice, Soli. I don't like it when teams defend the Tier 2 tower. I'd rather see them defend the Phoenix because it's just better geography.
And that's exactly what Cherio wants to do. He responded Tier 2 for Tier 2, but he's not going to get here in time, I feel like, to defend this Phoenix. So Bay are going to force the issue.
Yeah, there's going to be forward. Dardes in trouble before he even makes an impact. Jermaine lets the ultimate go, and there's help from mid lane, but not enough. Ataraxia taking down Cherio. Shouts from the sky, corralling Jermaine back into the base. Maniac outside. That does it, folks. 15-3. Elevate.